Hello, Alchestbreach, and anybody else who decides to watch this video today. I'm doing a bit of a KSP tutorial video, sort of. I have a list of stuff that I wanted to try and cover. This video is technically for a YouTuber named Alchestbreach who has been playing Kerbal Space Program this month. But anybody else who wants to watch this and wants to get some learning out of it, that's perfectly fine as well. Like I said, I do have a bit of a list of things I want to cover that are related to issues that Al has been having while he's played. He has been getting better. I'm not being critical, but there are some things that I think would help him if he knew about. So I do have some ships I've designed, specifically this one here. I tried to remain to all these the stuff that Al has unlocked. I'm playing in just sandbox mode, so I have all the parts, but one thing I wasn't sure about was whether or not he had these parts here, the fuel connectors. They're a good way of making yourself more fuel efficient, but because I wasn't sure if he had them or not, I've designed the ship both with and without them. I've tested them both, and you can get into space just fine with both of them. So I'm going to load up the one that doesn't have them, just to prove the point that they aren't necessary. They will get you a little bit extra fuel if you use them properly, but basically, in short, what they do is you can have all your engines running at once, and they'll be transferring fuel, for example, from this tank to this tank. You'll have noticed that they had arrows on them to show you which way the fuel is going. So these outer tanks here and here would run out first, and you ditch them. But whenever you do, all the other tanks would still be completely full of fuel. Another thing I wanted to cover real quick while I'm in the vehicle assembly building, I will note that I am in the new version, so some of this will look a little bit different. But these engines here, I want to talk about these two, because a lot of times you'll use one or the other, which is fine. This is a more powerful engine. But the thing to note about it is it does not have a thing called thrust vectoring, which this one over here does have. Like I said, the menu will look a little bit different for you. I think it'll say thrust vectoring on yours. If you don't update, it'll be right underneath the description. So I'm pointing at my screen like you can see what I'm pointing at, but it'll be underneath the description thing. It's like the first thing. It'll say thrust vectoring, and what that does, as you can see here, it says gimbaling underneath engine propellants, and it has gimbaling there. What that does is it means that the engine can swivel back and forth to try and alter the direction that your ship is traveling. I have 3 of them on this ship. Not really necessary, but these engines don't, so they're locked in position. And the reason I want to bring this up is I notice that sometimes when you're using these solid rocket boosters to help you get up, they don't have it, which is why you lose control occasionally. So I thought I'd bring that up while we were in the VAB. I think that was all I specifically wanted to talk about in here. Also, if you have lights, I do recommend you throw some on, because if you have to land in the dark side, having lights will help you know how close to the ground you actually are. Anyway, we will put this thing into launch, and I will talk about one of the most important things I want you to take out of this video, if you take anything out of it at all. Once it loads, I'm going to try to keep all the things I talk about fairly short and to the point, but like I said, if you take nothing away from this but one thing, it is this right here. There's arrow down at the bottom, click it, and now with this open, you can control your ship from the map view, which is really helpful, especially whenever you're making nodes and stuff in space. That way you can you can be throttling up, watch your orbit expand or decrease, and then be able to manually slow down or speed up depending on what it is you need. That way you don't have to rely 100% on your node that you put in, because it doesn't, it's only a guideline really. So that said, you basically know how to get into orbit just fine. I'm going to give you a couple tips. There'll probably be a couple cuts in here, but there will be a couple tips in here to explain how you can get into orbit more efficiently and have more fuel once you get up there. So I'll throttle up, and I'll cut into where I start talking about stuff. So right, the first tip is while you're traveling up through this thick part of the atmosphere, this is your this shows how thick the atmosphere is. You ideally want to stay below 200 meters a second. If you go too much above that, you're wasting more fuel fighting the density of the atmosphere than you are actually gaining speed. So you really want to wait until about the 10-kilometer mark. Obviously, you know you're supposed to turn there, and once you hit about there is about whenever you pass this point. So once you get above that, then you're pretty much clear to go above 200 meters a second. I usually get somewhere between going directly straight up in the 45-degree angle to for my 10-meter area. Once I hit about 20 meters or so, though, I go ahead and put it at about 45 degrees. I'll explain this a little bit more once we get out a little bit farther in the atmosphere where it starts to matter, but for the time being we're at about 20, and I'll put myself at about 45, and I'll catch you once we get to the next point. Right, so once you've gotten this up to about 45 to 50 kilometers up, you're going to want to almost put yourself entirely horizontal. The reason for this is, I'll show you in just a second. We'll put this horizontal here. Is the fact that we're high enough up that the atmosphere is quite thin now, so it doesn't really matter. We're not pushing against very much air. Oh, I need to ditch those. We're not pushing against very much air at this point, so it's not that much of a concern about the air density. What we need to do now is actually work on getting ourselves going more. Oops, my engines, I need to stage those. There we go. We need to get our horizontal speed up. We'll get our vertical speed in time as long as we're slightly above and in the blue. As you can see, we're already going up to 64 here. I'll actually cut this in a little bit down into the brown zone, and you see we're still gaining altitude. It's not like a huge deal here. What we need to do, what I've noticed you've been doing a lot, is going very vertical, and then once you get up, then you go out. And the problem with this is you're wasting a lot of speed, because you'll get up, and once you hit your highest point, you start to slow down. So you're actually losing a lot of speed that you could be keeping up. You need to be going about, I think it's 2,400 or so meters a second to get into an orbital velocity. And as you can see here, we're below 60, or below the 70-kilometer mark. But even so, we're losing very minimal amounts of speed. You'll see it go down slightly. Yeah, it went from 6 to 5, but we're not losing anything too much. So a lot of people say that they like to go up to 100 meters or 100 kilometers to be safe, but I've always found that to be extremely unnecessary, because that's 30 kilometers of speed that you're gaining into your orbit that you don't necessarily need. Somewhere between, once you're above 70, you will not degrade, and you can time warp just fine. So you really want to be, see, once the music kicks in, we're above 70 kilometers. So between 70 and 75 is usually perfectly fine. Your orbit will, I very often put my orbit too higher than that, and it's really not that big a deal. As long as you're putting some effort into not wasting the extra speed, that's fine. So here I'm going to put myself facing retro or prograde, and extend my orbit out. And there you go. And as you can see, I pushed it out too far, but it doesn't really matter. Once we're up to speed, it's easy to push yourself out farther. So that's perfectly fine. Right. So we've gotten into orbit, and I have this much of my tank of fuel left ready to go. And I have this other tank that's actually for landing and taking off of the moon's surface. Fantastic. Right, so now I've switched to another craft that I put up earlier. This is one we just launched, but I've put this craft up earlier to kind of demonstrate a little bit about the nodes and explain the nodes a little bit better. The nodes that you'll see on your nav ball by default are your prograde, which is this one. It's the one with a circle with 3 lines and no cross in it. This one is showing you which direction your ship is actually heading. So burning in this direction obviously will speed you up. If you go around to the other side, you'll see the retrograde, which also has 3 lines but has a cross in it. This is obviously the opposite direction of which you are going, and burning towards it will slow you down. Now I'll quickly explain the nodes that you see whenever you're adding maneuver. These two will adjust your inclination with the orbit of the planet. This one will be important if you're going to min-miss, which I believe you are in your next episode, which is over here. So if I quickly set this as my target to show you, oh, that's very convenient. You'll see that we're 6 degrees off. So using this, you can adjust it. Oops, we've passed my node. That's fine. I'm just giving you an example here. Do like this, and you'll see that this changes, and I'm going the wrong way. It's 1 degree, and ideally you want to put it at 0, but if you're below 1 degree, you're usually pretty alright. You want to be the most accurate with this, so you want to do it directly on top of where this little node is. So if we do it here, and do it the right direction, of course, that's 2 degrees, and we pull this back slightly. Ideally, you want to be doing this directly on top of it. And yeah, like I said, that's close enough, 0. And if you make that maneuver, it'll put you on the same inclination as min-miss, as you can see, because it's not directly on the 90-degree angle. Now, the other thing I wanted to show was I've purposely put this into an orbit which is kind of elliptical. So I'll quickly show you why I did that. It's to explain, oops, we gotta slow down. It's to explain what these blue nodes are for. Now, if you get yourself into an orbit like this, you can fix it with the blue nodes. Most people will wait till they're either at this point and speed up to push this out, or wait till this node to slow down to pull this one in. What you can do instead is wait until you're somewhere approximately in the middle, and you'll see if I push this in, it will even them out. So you get a more circular orbit around. See, it's gone from 337, 780, or 78, and you get a little bit more of an even number. You can pull it around to get a little bit more accurate. And this is basically, it moves the position of your orbit without changing your speed. So that's a good thing to know. Whether or not you'll actually need that bit of information, I'm not sure. But I think it would be good for you to understand what the node does regardless. And obviously these are prograde, retrograde for slowing and speeding up, which you should basically understand at this point. Also, real quickly, I will explain these 2 new nodes whenever you select a target that it puts on your nav ball. You got this pink one up here, and you got another pink one that will be opposite of that. This means if I'm pointing directly at this one with the circle one, that means that's the direction min-miss is from me. Generally speaking, these aren't super helpful, but I will show you how they can be in a little bit. Obviously, the one on the other side that's just kind of a cross design is the opposite, facing the opposite direction of the planet. So we'll hop back in the other ship, and I'll continue on with the next step here. We're back in the ship that I launched originally, and I'm going to be going to the moon. This is because I know you're going to be going to min-miss next time, and I don't really want to ruin the experience for you. As you can see, we're 5 degrees off, which isn't a huge deal. We'll be just fine. That said, we need to be going to the moon relatively soon. So let's select, add a maneuver, and obviously going to the moon, we want to expand our node out. And I got really lucky there and had an encounter straight away. But I did want to show you this. All right, we'll put this over here, and if you extend your node out till it hits the orbit, what you can do is, instead of closing it out and remaking your node every time, you can click and drag it along until you get an actual encounter. And if I get, we need to speed up a little bit, yeah, right here, I'm going to be directly running into it, but I do want to explain a little bit about encountering other bodies. So we'll put it there, and we'll prep to make our burn, which has another tip I have for you. I have no estimated burn time, which is odd. Let's see if I can't fix that in just a second. Once we find my actual nude. Alright, so we're here ready to burn. You have your estimated burn time, which mine says 37 seconds. Now the thing is, you don't burn at 0. Once it hits 0, you cut this number in half and burn halfway through. To quickly explain why, if you burn at this point in time, your burn will go from, for example, here to here, and at that point you've already missed you're kind of off your original burn point. So if you cut the number in half, which in this case would be, what, like 16 approximately, give or take. I'm not doing proper math here. We'll do it at 17 seconds. You'll burn from here to here, which will even it out in between where you're actually supposed to be burning. So point is, you've cut the number in half and start burning halfway through. So usually speaking, whenever you're going to the moon, you should be seeing the moon above the horizon as you go there. I'm actually going a little bit late, technically, so we'll be using a little bit more fuel because of that, but it's not a huge deal. So we'll start burning now. This will probably run out of fuel in the middle of it, and my next engine is a little bit less efficient, but this is all just for demonstrational purposes anyway, so it's not that big a deal. So I will be coming back once we're actually on our way to the moon. So we're halfway to the moon at this point, and I wanted to quickly bring up the EVA packs. I'm going to turn my ship slightly so we can have our door facing the sun here. And whenever you go out on an EVA, it's generally kind of a bit of a spooky thing. If you let go of your ship, your guide has an EVA pack. If you press R, he's got these little thrusters that you can control with WASD, Shift, and Control, very similar to how you control your ship normally. So with these, you can fly around in space if you need to. And also on the moon and on Mimas, you can fly around. So you don't necessarily need a ladder. That said, you can still use ladders, but you have enough thrust that you can actually fly around the surface of both the moon and Mimas. Something you do need to keep in mind, though, is your EVA packs have a limited amount of fuel. If you update your version of Kerbal Space Program to the newest one, you'll be able to actually keep up with your fuel up here, but the version you're on currently, you'll have to right-click on your guy to be able to see how much fuel. It'll give a percentage. The new version has this bar, so you'll have a percentage unless you update. So we'll scoot ourselves back to the ship and get inside. And I wanted to bring up something really not that important, but oops, I've run into the ship there. Board, but something I wanted to bring up anyway. You thought you had lost your ladder in the last video. You did not. It just was folded up. It looks like this little, I don't know, pillow or something. You'll click on that, extend ladder, and your ladder is just all folded up nice and neat. So you didn't lose your ladder. It was just closed up. So put that up, and we'll continue on our merry way to the moon. We're now in the moon's sphere of influence, and what I wanted to cover here is the two general methods for landing on the surface of a moon. The first one is to make your maneuver node back here at the periapsis and slow down, putting yourself into an orbit, and from there doing that again somewhere else, like here. We'll, for example, say, oops, wrong node there. You slow down and you pull yourself down to an orbit. Generally speaking, you want to do this if you are landing on a body that has an atmosphere, or you just want the accuracy of being able to choose where you'll land. You may want to do this if you're, for example, going to land on the dark side of the planet or the surface. Otherwise, it's much more efficient to come directly at the planet. So if you're out, oh my gosh, I need to get rid of my node here. There we go. If you're out here, you want to do your maneuver as far back as possible while you have plenty of time. And generally speaking, you don't want to slow down to do this. It'll work, but you'll waste a lot of fuel in comparison. So if you slow down, you'll be basically dropping your speed to 0 so that gravity pulls you in. The problem with this is, of course, you're just going to you're just going to gather all that speed back up. So instead, what you'd want to do is use this node that I showed you before to move over as opposed to slow down. So you point yourself wherever you want to try to land. I can't seem to get it to go past that point, which is fine. We might actually be able to show you. Yeah, doing this maneuver here would cost me 346 meters a second of fuel, while just moving my position over cost me 81. So it's a much more efficient maneuver, and the farther out you do it, the better. So we'll put ourselves on our nude, which is, there it is. Oh, well, we'll get there eventually. And I did want to also show you this. You were very often kind of worried if you bypassed your node, and that's not a problem. I'll just give you an example. Oh no, I've missed my node by 24 seconds. When you're this far out, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if I was to click here, for example, I mean, that's... Even if I do it like right here, that's 2 minutes and 50 seconds before I get to that point. And there's no real reason to worry about a 39-second miss on a maneuver like this. So we'll just throttle at our node regardless for the appropriate amount of time. And bam, there you go. You don't even notice. So there's no real reason to remove your position just because you've missed the time slightly. Unless you're in a very small amount of time, it's not that big a deal. Also, you were talking about before, it'd be nice to know how long you had until you got to a point. You can, in fact, do that. If you click on, like you're going to make a node, you can see here I have to wait an hour and 13 minutes. So with that knowledge, I can just time warp and be able to watch how long it's going to take without ever actually making a node. I got 7 minutes. I usually wait till about, a little bit closer. And there you go. We have a good idea how long it's going to take for us to get to the surface, approximately. So now that we're coming down at the moon, we realize that we're coming in, we have about 100 kilometers until we hit the surface, and we're coming in at about 700 meters a second, which is quite fast. Really, you don't want to be coming in this fast. You don't want to risk coming in at a speed that you won't be able to stop at. Unless you know the actual math behind it, you should slow down early. How early? It really kind of depends on how willing and trusting you are of the power of your engine. I don't like to be coming in at a speed more than 400 meters a second, really at any time. So I'll kill off some of the speed now while I'm a little high up. To about maybe 500 or so should be fine. The problem is you got to keep in mind that the more fuel you burn up high, the less fuel efficient you're going to be, because you're just going to gather that speed back up as you get pulled in closer to the surface. So we'll wait a little bit until we get a little closer. And you see we've gone down about half that, and we've already gained up another 100 meters a second of speed. So you got to kind of balance what you kind of trust in your engines as opposed to what you think you can actually land with. So I'm going to put my landing gear down, turn my lights on so I can see whenever I get closer to the surface. And now that we're about 20 kilometers left, I'm going to keep my speed at somewhere about 150 meters a second just to keep it manageable. If you find that, ideally you want your retrograde to be pointing straight at that little dot in the center. If you find that yours isn't, you want to burn opposite the direction it is of the dot, and it'll push it away. So you can see I pushed it that way, and you can push it back. So there's a quick example of that. We're about 10 meters now, and I guess you kind of get the point of this. So I'll catch you when we land, so I don't, tell you how to do everything. So right, one last tip about landing is that you want to be coming in, and whenever you actually make your landing, you want to be coming in at 10 meters a second or less. Generally speaking, you tend to break things if you're going any faster than that. So nice, gentle landing, and a little bit leany, but SAS will bring us back. Your SAS will tend to keep you at an awkward angle, so you gotta be careful with that. Let's turn it off. There we go. Landed. And we got a nice shot of Earth, as you call it, over there in the distance. We put our ladder out if we want. Jump out. And let's see, put our RCS on, and as you can see, we can fly around just fine. Your guy actually has a light as well, which might be worth telling you. With the L button, you can turn his little light on. And we've landed on the surface just fine and dandy. Mimus has much lower gravity, so it'll be easier to land there once you get your inclination set up right. Getting to Mimus, or landing on Mimus, should be a breeze. It's really, really easy to land there. So we'll hop back in, board, ladder up, and launch away. Now, I will tell you one thing. Hopefully I don't tell you this wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. Whenever you want to be fuel efficient going back home, you want to burn, let's see. You know what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this. I tend to forget which direction is actually right. Going one way compared to the other is usually more fuel efficient. I think it's going this way, so that the gravity pulls you back towards the moon, which helps slow you down. I believe that's correct, but don't take my word for it on that one 100%. But now that we're on the moon, mission accomplished, and we can take back off. I will tell you that I believe you left a ship in space at the end of your last episode that you said you tried to take to the moon at the beginning of the next episode. I'm 100% confident that that ship should be capable of landing on the moon. It's just you slowed down too late last time, and I believe it was dark, so you couldn't see anyway. So just take it easy, and you should be able to land just fine. It takes less fuel to get off these moons. I don't know if I'll be able to. I'll be pulling it pretty close, I think. But we'll find out. And there you go. I set my guy up a little bit short on fuel. What are you going to do? But, right. I think I've covered most everything I wanted to. The last couple things I wanted to cover, for example, let me get in the sunlight. Not that it matters, but I'd like to be in the sun. There we go. Is fairly important. Quick saving, F5. There you go. Quick save, it says up here. And we'll time warp just to show that it's functioning. We're all the way over here now. And quick load is F9. So hold F9. Quick save, and there you go, we're back over here. Fantastic. I will quickly look at my notes to see if I've missed anything. I'm pretty sure I've covered just about everything I wanted to cover in this video. If I come up with more stuff, I will happily make more videos. And whenever you have your next video and I see anything else that needs to be covered, again, I'll happily do it. I'm not sure what you intend to do after you go to Minmus. If you continue on with this whole month thing, you should have another week's set of episodes. That said, a lot of people spend their next episode going to Duna. I don't know if you want to bother doing that or not. It is a hard trip. The one tip I'll give you if you do decide to go to Duna is to wait until you'll have to fast forward a lot until Kerbal catches up with Duna a little bit. It'll be about, for example, if Kerbal was here and Duna was there, I think you'd be pretty all right to make the launch, and you'll make a sweeping maneuver kind of like this and hit Duna somewhere over here. These are estimates. I haven't gone to Duna in a while, so it's just kind of a rough idea. Other than that, things you could try to do, though probably not very actually it might be quite entertaining or boring, who knows, is if you go and try and dock things in space. That's always a right hassle. But I did want to show this. Atmosphere height, 70 meters. That should be readable. That's just to prove that the atmosphere height stops at 70 meters, and once you're above that, you're safe. So there's the legitimate stats from the game itself. Woot woot. So, I hope I've covered enough. If anything is confusing, by all means let me know, and I will explain in more detail. There's where I landed the ship on Minmus, just for testing, and it does do so just fine. So, I'll leave Minmus a mystery for you, so you can enjoy landing there yourself. Until next time, I've been Zagrom, and I'll catch you guys later. Oh, right. And also, I've left Al's channel in the description if you're somebody who watches me but has not seen Alchestbreach. He's one of my favorites, so go check him out.